It's been some time since the San Antonio Spurs have been a dominant force in the NBA, from the dynasty that they set up with David Robinson and Tim Duncan to the years where they were very, very good with Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Kawhi Leonard, and Tim Duncan. The Spurs were always a dynasty in the making, but they have fallen onto some hard times. But today, and with the beginning of this new series, that era is going to begin or end and begin a new dominant era. And now begins a new era of San Antonio Spurs basketball. As you can see, we are taking over as the general manager under above head coach Greg Popovich. He has 2 years left on his contract, and hopefully we can become good enough for him before he retires or decides to call it quits, and hopefully we can build a successful team around him. Now, many of you may not know that I began my channel with a San Antonio Spurs MyNBA series. Now, some of those videos are privated because it didn't end up the way I wanted it to. I was learning a lot throughout the process. I didn't exactly know everything that I was doing, but it has been a long journey, and now after they have gained the number 1 overall pick through the draft lottery, it's not going to say it, or it will say it here. I had to trade pretty much every pick. But after they gain the number 1 overall pick with the draft lottery, and they will be getting Victor Wembanyama, or I will be getting Victor Wembanyama, I figured it's time to jump back on the 2K saddle and take this team to the promised land. I've done it before with a better but not young team like this with the Spurs in 2K21. Why can't I do it now, as we have to build around Victor Wembanyama? And obviously, we really don't need to go into any of the draft workouts or the draft combine, because this is a pretty obvious pick. Everybody knows who the number 1 overall selection is going to be. Everybody knows that it is going to be Victor Wembanyama. As you can see, we are going to go into the draft, and we are going to take the 7'4" Frenchman out of France. Obviously, that he played for the European League. He is the number 1 draft ranked, the number 1 position ranked, 40% scouted, B+ on offense, B+ on defense. We have no choice but to draft Victor Wembanyama. With the first overall pick, the San Antonio Spurs have selected Victor Wembanyama from France. And that is going to be a once-in-a-generational physical specimen, according to Sean Devaney. Towering height, ridiculous wingspan, no-brainer selection, and a unicorn at that spot. But now I'm interested to see where everybody else falls. The biggest name that has been rumored to the Hornets is Brandon Miller, but they are going to go with Scoot Henderson and pair him up alongside LaMelo Ball. We will have to see how that pair is going to develop in the NBA. He was a NBA G League Ignite prospect similar to Jalen Green, but at 6'2", you've got to expect him to play point guard and LaMelo to slide to the shooting guard position. What are they going to do with Terry Rozier? We will have to see. The Portland Trailblazers are up next, where they have a very interesting selection here. Do you make a trade, and do you try to get somebody to play alongside Damian Lillard, or do you make the selection? It appears they are going to settle for Brandon Miller, a 6'9" smaller forward out of Alabama. He was one of the best scorers out of the draft. He led the nation last year, according to Rob Mahoney. But it'll be interesting to see how he develops alongside Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, and Damian Lillard as well. Now the Rockets come up to bat. They have an interesting option here as well, and they are looking to make a trade. The Houston Rockets are going to be trading the 4th overall pick in the 2023 draft, the 2023 second-round pick from the Cavaliers, and they are going to be the Wizards are going to be receiving, so the Rockets are going to be getting Bradley Beal, a 2025 first-round pick, top 5 protected from the Rockets, and that trade is going to go through. The Houston Rockets have now acquired Bradley Beal, and if you're wondering why his overall is so low, I'm playing on the attention to detail sliders, so it should make a lot of overalls and badges and statistics and all of that stuff a little bit more realistic. But the Wizards are deciding to finally hit the reset on that, and they select Amon Thompson, a 6'7" shooting guard out of high school. I mean, technically not, but technically yes. He has a twin in this draft, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do, but he has savvy situational awareness and an endless motor that is going to be an interesting selection, as they will have another pick coming up here in the 8th spot. And now, with the 5th overall pick, the Detroit Pistons are going to select Jerice Walker, 6'8" power forward out of Houston. He's a little undersized, but he has very good rebounding potential and can hopefully develop his offensive game as he gets experience into the league alongside of Jalen Duren. The Orlando Magic now step up to the plate, and they're going to select Colby Jones, shooting guard out of Xavier, Ohio. Don't know much about this guy, but he led all players at the draft combine at shooting the college three, making 38 out of his 50 attempts. No surprise he was drafted here this high. And now the Indiana Pacers are going to step up, and they're going to take Keontae George out of Baylor, the shooting guard. He is going to be alongside Tyrese Halliburton. Hopefully the Pacers have now found their top three players now in Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, and Keontae George. It would be interesting to see how he can develop alongside those other ball-dominant guards. And now Washington Wizards are back on the clock. Earlier in the draft, they traded up to make the selection of Amon Thompson. Let's see who they take here. The Wizards are going to select Cason Wallace. With the 8th overall pick, they select their point guard of the future, the 6'4 guard out of Kentucky, 193 pounds. Cason Wallace is a tremendous passer. He averaged 8.1 assists per game last year at Kentucky, and that is an interesting selection for the Wizards, who finally, Wizards fans were waiting for a moment like this to blow it up and just rebuild, and they did just that in this draft. And so far I have been happy or impressed with what they've been able to do, the general managers over there in Washington. Now the Jazz, they started out really hot last year after blowing up their team and getting a lot of young pieces, Ochai Agbaji, Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, all-star Lauri Markkanen at that. But they kind of came back down to earth, and they did end up rounding out and getting a top 10 pick, and hopefully they can make the right selection. Of course, the Utah Jazz are going to take Grady Dick out of Kansas, a small forward, 6'8", impressive prospect. He was a 5-star coming out of high school. Had a couple of injuries at Kansas, but he has played very well over his career there, and he's going to hope to find a role there in Utah, where he will have plenty of opportunities to get some playing time. Now, at the 10th selection, the Dallas Mavericks are going to step up to the podium, and the Dallas Mavericks take Jet Howard, small forward, Michigan, with the 10th overall pick. A good round pick there for the Mavericks. They still have to figure out what they're doing with Kyrie Irving. They have to figure out what they're doing with Jason Kidd, their head coach. But they make a safe selection here as we head to number 11, the Orlando Magic, and what I believe is their second pick already. They did have one earlier, I believe. And they ended up taking Colby Jones, which was a bit of a stretch. He is only a 70 overall, obviously the lowest we have seen so far, and that is an interesting look to see who they will be able to pick up here at number 11, or number 12. The Orlando Magic are going to select Kyle Filipowski, the 7-foot center out of Duke, 230 pounds, and in my opinion, that is probably going to be another reach. He's a 73 overall, 19-year-old center, but still, I have to imagine there were better prospects on the board if you're looking at the overall draft class. Nevertheless, we're going to head to number 13, where the Oklahoma City Thunder made a push for the play-in, made a push for the playoffs. Unfortunately, they fell a little bit short, but they are looking very promising, getting Chet Holmgren back. They are going to select Julian Phillips, the 6'8" small forward out of Tennessee, with the 12th overall pick, as we round out the lottery with two more selections as the Toronto Raptors step to the podium, and they select Anthony Black, 6'7" shooting guard, Arkansas. Coming into Toronto, he is going to be playing alongside Fred VanVleet, possibly, depending on what the Raptors decide to do with their roster as we round out the lottery. The Pelicans, interesting to see what they do with Zion. They're going to step to the podium on the clock, and they are going to select Dariq Whitehead, 6'7" small forward out of Duke, and they are hoping that he can maybe be the replacement for Brandon Ingram, who has voiced his concerns with the New Orleans Pelicans organization. And now, after that, the top 14 is done. We are going to simulate to our second round pick. We do have another pick in the draft, and we have a lot of options to choose from. Derek Lively has still made it this far. Chris Murray would be an interesting option. We have a couple guys that we're going to look at. As I said, Derek Lively's down here. Terrence Shannon Jr., he is an interesting option out of Illinois, but he is still selected to be a little bit lower. Jordan Hawkins is down here, one of the better shooters in this draft, and I'm thinking we settle for Jordan Hawkins, a 6'5" shooting guard, 21 years old, out of Connecticut. Don't know much what else he can do that well at an NBA level, but he can definitely shoot the ball, as we're going to have another second-round pick later in the draft. We do have a couple of offers for it. I wouldn't be opposed to moving back a little bit, but nothing really is interesting me. 21-year-old Arthur Kaluma, out of Creighton. He was just recently picked with the sixth overall pick in the second round. Looks like an okay guy all around. His driving layup is decent. His close shot is decent. Can't really hit the three. Plays small forward. Ball handling could use improvement. Defense is okay. It's a starting point there. He is 6'7". Let's go ahead and see what else they have to offer. Jalen Clark down here, a shooting guard who plays the same position as Jordan Hawkins. He is not a good shooter at all, though. But does he drive well? His ball handling could use improvement. He cannot drive all that well. Can he play shooting guard or can he play defense? He is very, very good on the defensive side of the ball. And Marcus Noel is another guy out of Kansas State, 5'8", short king, can hit the three. He can ball handle. He can play well, but his defense obviously is lackluster at that height. We're going to go ahead and look around and see what else is on the board or who else is on the board right now. There's not a lot to choose from, as we recently just took Jordan Hawkins off the board. And let's see. Who else would be on here that would be interesting? James Najee, pair him alongside Victor Wembanyama could be a possibility. I'm interested in that. Have him there. Emily Bates off there. I'm going to go ahead and take a flyer on Emily Bates. Out of Eastern Michigan, he was originally highly touted. I mean, he was expected to be the next LeBron at one point, but at the end of the day, his college career did not end up exactly where he expected it to be, and we're going to go ahead and select him and get a recap of the draft. Cam Whitmore went right out of the lottery to the Atlanta Hawks. I do like that selection for the Hawks. It gives them another power forward that they can play, with A.J. Griffin coming up as a small forward. Taylor Hendrick goes to the Jazz. Jamie Jaquez Jr. out of UCLA is who the Lakers end up selecting at 17. I'm surprised they didn't trade it. Nick Smith Jr. gets taken to the Heat. Asar Thompson goes to the Warriors. Another sneaky good selection by the Warriors. At number 20, the Rockets select Maxwell Lewis. The Brooklyn Nets take Jalen Hood-Schifino. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Jalen Wilson in back-to-back picks for the Brooklyn Nets. G.G. Jackson, Gregory Jackson goes to the Trailblazers there. Trace Jackson Davis goes to the Kings. Rayan Rupert goes to the Grizzlies. Leonard Miller to the Pacers. Bilal Coulibaly to the Hornets. Where is he from? I can't remember. He is from France as well. Kobe Buffkin goes to the Jazz. Bryce Sensabaugh to the Pacers again, and rounding out the first round, Tristan Vucevic. I'm not quite sure how you would pronounce that, but he is from Drake. He is going to be selected by the Clippers. And now we get to look at our second round picks for once. Let's see how they're performing. Obviously, Victor Wembanyama is coming to the roster. Jordan Hawkins out of UConn. We get to see his final statistics. He has an 85 three ball, a driving layup of 80, so that's a pretty good, decent driving layup in my opinion for a guy that's mostly a spot-up shooter. Defense is average, a little below average, but still serviceable. I'm very happy with that selection. And Emily Bates, the 6'10", small forward shooting guard hybrid, a 19-year-old out of Eastern Michigan. He is going to be a prospect. That is the biggest thing, but we're going to sign all three of these guys. And now we have to address the rest of the team. Zach Collins wants a $7 million option. And right now, if we look at the roster, we have Victor Wembanyama coming off of that center position. We have Charles Bassey on a one-year deal. We have a couple, Kim Birch on another one-year deal, which I would not be opposed to dealing him to a team that would be interested. So we're going to let Zach Collins walk. We're going to let Julian Champagne walk. We might bring him back, and Dominic Barlow can walk as well, but I will keep Devin Vassell. As far as superstars go, James Harden declines his player option. Everybody else pretty much except Spencer Dinwiddie is the first guy down here at a 79 overall to decline. So we're going to have to look around the league and see who all we would like to sign. Trey Jones, I'm going to extend the qualifying offer for. He can't hit the three, but I do think he can develop into a good starting point guard. Romeo Langford, 23 years old. I think I'm going to be fine. $9 million for him at 71 overall is not something that I would like to bring back. And we are actually going to go over here real quick and edit this, because if you guys play 2K, you do know that the morale effects is crazy. If you put a guy in the G League for one day, they are going to be a 65 overall because they're so mad at you. So I'm going to put that at 0 because it's a little overdone in my opinion. And now let's take a look at our roster before we go into free agency. Right now we have Devontae Graham on a contract, Blake Wesley backing him up at the 20-year-old former first-round pick, 25th overall. Hopefully he can get some playing time this year. At the shooting guard position, we're going to have Devin Vassell, Malachi Branham, and Jordan Hawkins. Small forward, we're going to have Keldon Johnson, obviously still 23 years old, still a lot of time to improve. Doug McDermott behind him, Emily Bates at the 3 spot on that small forward position. Jeremy Sochan at the power forward position, 6'8", and beside him we will have Victor Wembanyama, Charles Bassey, and Kim Birch. So what I'm really thinking is bring Tre Jones back on a pretty big deal, in my opinion. We have a lot of money. Really, we could go out there and offer Kyrie Irving something if we wanted to, but that's not exactly in the MO of the Spurs, and I want to bring Tre Jones in on a big long-term deal. So we're going to give him a 3+1 at about $9.15 million. And hopefully he accepts that, because it would be great to go ahead and bring him back. Anybody else that I would like to be interested in bringing back? Right now, I have a few guys I'm interested in getting rid of. We're going to have Doug McDermott is a guy I would love to get off of this roster. Devontae Graham is another guy. He has a fairly large contract. And that's pretty much everybody on this roster that I would like to get off. As we have to get, let's see what positions we need exactly. We've got Tre Jones coming in at point guard. Good at shooting guard, good at small forward. We need a backup power forward for Jeremy Sochan, and that is interesting to see all the options here. Cam Johnson would be interesting if he was not restricted and 27 years old. Kyle Kuzma is a guy out there. He's probably got a decent size offer, from the Knicks. Miles Bridges, we don't mess with Miles Bridges. He has some issues off the court, as most of you know. Trying to look for a veteran, but it's still a good option to come off the bench behind Jeremy Sochan. And it's not really looking all that promising for guys that I would be interested in. Terry Taylor was a undrafted guy, 23 years old. Would be interesting. Trey Lyles we could bring back to San Antonio. He played here for a couple years, and he had some okay seasons. Interesting option here in Trey Lyles. He's got a decent shot. Kenny Hustle is there as an option. PJ Washington, Jeff Green is an option for a really old vet. But another guy that I would really like to bring to this roster is Rui Hachimura. I was impressed with what he did for the Lakers there in the offseason, or in the playoffs, and I would like to offer him that contract. So right now he's ready to agree. Tre Jones is ready to agree. Romeo Langford we're going to decline. We're going to release the rights for Zach Collins, renounce the rights for Keita Bates-Diop. Mamu Kelishvili is a guy that we're going to release the rights to as well, or I'm going to keep his rights right now. We're going to release it to Justin Champagne and Dominic Barlow as well, and we will go ahead and advance to the beginning of the season. Unfortunately, it glitches every time with this when you offer them the match, or you have a guy that's restricted. So we have Tre Jones on a 1-year deal, but next episode I will edit that to make it his 4-year player option, or 3+1 player option. And that's going to leave us with this roster right now. Tre Jones, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Rui Hachimura, or Jeremy Sochan is probably the guy I'm going to start there. Victor Wembanyama at the center position. Rui Hachimura got a decent payday, 2 years, $8 million. And we have a few more positions that I would like to bring. I would like to bring back Sandro Mamukelashvili if I can, but I would like to slide him over to the power forward position. We're probably going to bring him in on a 1-year deal, honestly, just at a minimum, because I don't really want... we'll see how he plays. We'll do a 1-year +1 team option, so that is a good deal for him. Then we need probably to go ahead and address the backup shooting guard position if we don't trust these young guys, or... honestly, the best pace would be probably a backup small forward at this point, and we have a couple of guys we can choose from. We could bring Danny Green back to get some veteran options on the team, and that's exactly what we are going to do. And that is going to round out the offseason here for your San Antonio Spurs. I'm not exactly sure if we have any other roster spots left. Dylan Mitchell is there as well, but we will see how this goes. We're going to go to player progression. I'm not going to play Summer League this first season because I don't have a lot of guys that I'm attached to, really. Blake Wesley goes up by 1. Devin Vassell doesn't technically go down by 3. Anytime you play with attention to detail rosters, they're going to look like they go down, but secretly they're just staying the same or they're going up. But we'll have to make a decision about Devin Vassell sometime soon or sometime in the future. Malachi Branham does go up too, and Jordan Hawkins stays there at 71. Obviously, he's a rookie. Keldon Johnson, 81. Danny Green, 72. Doug McDermott, 71. And Emily Bates, a 69 overall. He won't be wearing 43 this entire year. We're going to go through and we're going to add new numbers for everybody. Vic is obviously wearing number 1. And that is where the roster is going to leave us right now. We will go into the regular season with an auto-generated draft class, but I am going to ask you guys, go down in the comments down below, leave a name, positions, height, weight, and all of attributes or how the guy would play, as I'm going to allow you guys to create some prospects for the upcoming season. That way you can kind of get a a bit of a interaction with this journey, because I love getting you guys involved in this, and I really like the idea of getting you guys to be able to create recruits, create prospects, give me trade ideas, stuff like that. So that is where we're going to end this first episode here. If you did enjoy or you are excited for this series, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you never miss this or my other series that I upload. And we will start next episode with the season opener against the Atlanta Hawks Spurs Nation. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.